Hi, Wayne from Root River Rod Co. I'm here to tell you about a new and exciting series that we've got planned here at the shop. What we want to do is we want to approach fly tying and fishing and strategies in a little different way. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at groups of insects and other groups of food forms, and we're going to break those down. How are we going to do that? Well, let's take an example from midges. We're going to talk about midge larvae, we're going to talk about midge pupa, we're going to talk about midge adults, and how the fish relate to those insects as they hatch, and the appropriate techniques that we can employ to be successful out on the stream with these patterns. We think this is going to be really nice. We're going to have time behind the vise, and we're going to also spend some time out on the water taking what we've learned and talked about at the vise and putting it to a practical test. And speaking of a practical test, we're going to do that right now. We're going to go off and we're going to start tying flies. Today, since it's January 8th, we're going to focus on the winter months. And what fly is more, says more winter fly fishing than a trusty midge? Why do we fish midges during the winter so much? Well, a couple of reasons. One, primarily, is that in trout behavior in the winter, they fall back into the deeper water to conserve energy because they have such low metabolic rates because of the cooling water temperatures. And when we are at the bottom of deeper runs and holes, what we have is an accumulation of sediment and detritus and other things that create a perfect environment for a midge larvae, which is what we're going to focus on today. Larvae and pupa, to be specific. So a midge larva lives in the bottom of the creek bed. They create little cocoons in the substrate at the bottom, and they pop out and they gather their food, and when they pop their heads out, they become available to the fish, either through them rooting around or the currents dislodging them and putting them into the flow of the river. And the fish do focus on these flies very specifically. What we're going to do right now is we're just going to tie a midge larva. It's called a Bling Midge. It's nothing particularly fancy. It's going to have a thread body with a little bit of flash and a bulbous head to imitate the head of the midge itself. And that's about it, but it can be very effective because when we do our stomach samples, and we do extensive stomach samples, me and my fishing buddies, we see that this time of year and throughout all the year, as a matter of fact, that midges are a significant part of the food chain here in southeast Minnesota driftless area. So, enough babbling, let's go tie this fly here. So we're simply going to attach our thread and work this all the way down to would be the bend where the hook barb would come from this hook if it wasn't barbless. Let me explain to you what we're doing here with the initial hook we're using. We're using Fulling Mill Tactical Midge. We sell here at the shop. These are absolutely fantastic hooks for midges. They're great for subsurface and surface flies. The wire is very good and strong, as you can see, but it's not so heavy that it sinks the fly when we start tying emergers and other things on this hook, which we will be doing later. So anyway, what we want to do here is we want to build up a little bit of a tapered body, not too much. Remember, we have our midges are very, very thin, worm-like critters. In fact, they're very worm-like critters, so we don't need to do too much. So we're just going to build a little bit of bulk up here. And I'm doing that. If you'll notice, my thread is flat right here. You can see that. When we have flat thread, we don't get any bumps in our body. The fish don't care about that, but as fly tiers, we should care about that because we want to tie nice, pretty flies, no matter if they're simple or complicated. And there's these little tricks that will help you produce better flies. So we're just going to do a few more up and down here. And then all we're going to do is once we do one more pass here, so we're going to put a little silver wire on here. And that's going to act as a rib. And if you see your midge larvae in any book or in a stomach pump, you'll see that they have a segmented body like just about every aquatic insect does. And we like to mimic that. The wire gives us the ability to mimic that, and then it also gives us a little bit of flash and shine. I like to put all of my wire and ribbings and everything on the other side of the hook from me, so you'll see when I progress through this fly. So when I start to wrap this wire forward, it's more natural and a more conducive to the way the material actually reacts, and that'll make sense when I get this on here. So all I have to do is I'm just going to just expose just very little amount of that of the material here with a flat thread, and then just one wrap, and I catch it like that. 2 wraps secure it, and then what I want to do is I want to pull down with a little tension. And what that does is that allows me to mimic the exact shape. Oops, all right, I got a little editing problem there. Let me go back and do this again. Get that in there nice and secure, and then if I don't pull too tight, if I put tension on it, what'll happen is as I wrap down the shank of the hook, the ribbing will just naturally conform to the shape of the hook shank. See it just like that? And it doesn't fly all over the place. See, if I let go of it, it'll spin, but if I pull it a little bit tight, I have nice control over this. And then I can put it wherever I want. And you can see it's right on the opposite side. So whether I want to counter wrap or just regular wrap, it's in a perfect position for me to do that. And then what I want to do is I'm going to bring my thread forward, up the hook shank, and I'm going to return it to about a quarter position up here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to wrap this. I'm not going to counter wrap it. I don't think it's necessary to counter wrap this when it's just thread. And then plus we're going to put a lot of UV glue on this, but we want to just wrap our silver wire and open, evenly spaced wraps up the hook shank. Just take your time. We're not in a race. And we want to produce an effective fly and a nice attractive fly too. Remember, we're craftsmen here as fly tiers. And we want to take pride in our craft. And as such, we want to take our time to, if you notice right here, I got that space right there. It's a little bit wider than the subsequent one. So I'm just going to take the time to undo it and go back and then correct it. Took a nanosecond, but now everything is nicely spaced, all looking the same. Then I'm going to come right up here. This is the part where I'm going to create a midge body head and a little bit of flash. And we'll see that in a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to catch this wire underneath the shank. One wrap secures that. And then I'm going to take a couple of wraps towards the eye under tension. I'm performing really the same fly tying, same technique as when I was wrapping this down the shank. But I'm doing it going forward to the eye. That way I get a nice clean tie-off point. And I don't have any bumps or anything. And I got a nice smooth platform which to put my little flash on, which I will. All these wires, modern wires nowadays, they're all easily helicoptered, and you can break them off. Here's a little tip that my old buddy Swanee taught me. You can bring the bobbin head right up to the shank. It secures the hook, and then you just helicopter back and forth, and the wire pops right off. So with my flat thread, I'm just going to wrap back, creating a nice smooth tie-off point. And I'm going to add just a little bit of Perdigon tinsel to this fly to give just a little bit of flash. That little bit of flash can imitate a myriad of things, from the forming gills and etc. within the insect, to where we're just adding a little bit of flash, because sometimes a little bit of flash just helps. So again, I'm just having just enough of the material outside of my fingertips right here to where I don't have to really make a cut with my scissors. I can just make a wrap. There, you see that I catch it, and then I just wrap forward. There's no need for me to use my scissors. I just cover the material right up. And that's it. And you see, I've got nice flat thread. I've got the beginnings of the bulbous head of the midge, and I'm just going to take a couple of wraps here of my Perdigon material. You can see already that I've got a little bit of shine there. Come over the top. Old school method, put your finger on top. It holds the material there. Come back underneath. Hold it with your fingers. Remember, the best tools you have are your fingers and your hands. Back up. We're just going to do one more wrap. That'll give us 5, I think. And we're just creating a little spot of flash. And then you're not going to be able to see this with my finger because I'm holding it here. But let me do a little switch here. I'll change the material. And then all I'm going to do is unwrap my thread back to the point where I ended my wraps, and then I just come underneath and I catch that thread. I let the thread catch the tinsel, and then I just wrap forward a couple of times, and I've secured that off. And then I just cut underneath. Here's a little trick for you. Anytime you're cutting your material off underneath your shank and you're worried about cutting your thread, use your finger, raise the thread above the shank, and then you're never going to have to worry about cutting your thread because your scissors are going to be below the shank. So from this point, all I'm going to do is just build up a bulbous little midge head and this is going to start to look like a midge from the pictures you've seen in the books here in a second, as I start to build up a little bit of bulk here. And as you can see, I'm getting that shape right there. And this is where the flat thread comes in handy, because if this thread was corded and twisted, I'd be getting bumps and valleys and all sorts of things within the fly that the fish wouldn't care, but it wouldn't make it look as nice. And remember, as I said, you're a craftsman or a crafts lady, and you want to make your flies look nice. So we're just going to cover that up. That. Then I'm just going to, that looks good. That looks like a midge. And then we're going to just do a whip finish. And if you don't know how to do a whip finish, we're going to save that for another day. I come in, do a 3-turn, 4-turn whip finish. Pull that tight. Give it a little wiggle. Make sure it sets. And then again, I just cut it underneath. And that fly is done. Just about. Last step is we want to put on some Solarez, some UV glue, and watch what happens when we do this. This fly looks nice and everything, but it's a little dull, you know, not too bright or anything yet. But when we hit it with the glue, watch what happens. Is that fly and the shine, look at that, it starts to come alive here. And we want to just put a big, nice coating of this all over the fly. If we have any places where it pools, or the glue starts to collect, I always just touch it with my fingers and it comes right off. Remember, it's UV glue. It's not going to set until it comes in contact with UV light, the sun or tool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to set that glue with the UV light. So I'm going to come in front of the camera a little bit. Sorry about that. And as you can see, the texture of the fly starts to change. You can start to see that we get a brightness and a shell over the thread body. Not only does that reinforce the fly to make it more durable, but remember, in nature, brightness is an indicator of life. So we want to add a little bit of brightness to our flies, so the fish can see that they're eating a live, living critter. Sticks, little bits of detritus that flow down in the water column that are not bright and don't have a little shine on them, the fish ignore that stuff. So remember that a little bit of shine, a little bit of flash gives the illusion of life without making your fly look like a Christmas tree. We don't want to do that. You know, we want the fish to engage with the fly as it's being presented. We want them to obviously think that it's a natural and safe to eat. We don't want to put so much on this fly that the fish will start to second guess whether it's worth eating or not. That's the opposite of what we're trying to do here when we're tying flies. But anyway, this is the Bling Midge. Very simple, as you can see. The wraps there that give us the little shine is the bling part. And the rest of it is very simple to tie, as you can see. I tied this on a size 18. We can tie these all the way down to size 30, which we do, which in another video we'll talk about. But that's for another day. So our next video, we are going to tie a midge pupa, which is the next stage of development from the midge larva right here. And we will be doing another video on that